Hey guys, this is Shelby with the Rogers Public Library. This week's theme for Full Steam Ahead is Cinderella. So I thought I would make a nice cardboard castle. So this is not a particularly Cinderella-y, but it does fit in with the story a little bit. So this is a group project, or something that you might want to work on over a couple of days, because you have to let things dry and then put them together or paint another coat on them. But so for starters, this is just cardboard, all the towers in the center tower, and then these roofs are made out of paper mache. I'll get to that in a second, but first I want to talk about the supplies I used. So first is scissors and a paintbrush. Those are both important. And you also probably want to use a hot glue gun with the grown-ups' help. I don't think that tacky glue or school glue would be good for this project. They're just not really strong enough. And then, so I also used this. This is a tube, right? A cardboard tube. But I only have one of them, and I wanted to have 4 towers for my castle. So I did something a little neat, and I took a piece of cardboard. So you don't know there's different types of cardboard. This cardboard is corrugated, and that means that you can fold it and shape it into different shapes. So what I did is I bent it a little bit kind of like this, and I wrapped it around the tube, and I just glued it together. And that way I had 4 towers to the same size instead of worrying about finding 4 of these. This is also a bit thinner, so it's easier to work with. And then for joining the pieces together, I cut slits in it kind of like this, just using scissors, and wedged everything together. Now for the roofs, which are made out of paper mache, I used this funnel that we happen to have here at the library. So if you don't know paper mache, you get like newsprint or some just scrap paper, and you can use different things to kind of stick the pieces together and make shapes. So what I use is called Mod Podge. It's a little bit like glue but thinner. You can make Mod Podge at home. You don't have to buy it. You can use Elmer's glue, 1 part Elmer's glue to 2 parts water. You can also mix together water and flour, but that's a little bit harder and it doesn't keep forever like Elmer's glue and water does. So yeah, that's how I made the roofs. I just put them on here and let it dry and then trim them down so they're all the same size. And now for the painting. That was a little bit harder. So I just used a paintbrush, a bit like this one, but I don't think it was this one. I got paint, a couple different colors, and I mixed together until it was nice. But as you can see, there's a little bit of texturing on here. So castles are made out of stone. I wanted to do something similar to that. So I made a stamp out of a cork. You might not have one of these at home, but there's other things you can use to make a stamp. You might use some foam like this, because it's easy to cut with a butter knife or something. Or you can cut out shapes from craft foam, just sheets of foam, and glue them in cardboard and make a stamp that way. And if you do use a stamp like this, because you're using paint and not ink, you need to brush it on there and then stamp like that. Yeah. So that's my castle. Hopefully you guys can come up with some neat ideas or castles of your own. So yeah, I hope you guys had fun. So our theme this week for Full Steam Ahead is Cinderella, and in that story, the fairy godmother turns a pumpkin into a stagecoach. And similar to that, we're going to be doing an experiment this week that involves turning a little bit of liquid into something bigger. So we're going to make something called elephant's toothpaste. And what you need for this experiment is half a cup of contact solution, it's like hydrogen peroxide, but it's a little bit stronger and more concentrated. And you'll also need a tablespoon of dish detergent, a tablespoon of yeast, and 3 tablespoons of warm water. And what you do with the yeast and the warm water is you mix them together, and it needs to be warm so that it dissolves in there. And then the contact solution and the dish detergent are in here, along with a little bit of food coloring, which is just perfect. So we're going to take this yeast water mix and we're going to pour it in here and see what happens. So as you can see, it's expanding and making kind of a toothpaste-like mixture. And so the reason this happens is so hydrogen peroxide is like it sounds. It has hydrogen and oxygen in it. similar to something else, which is water, right? H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. So hydrogen peroxide likes to break down into water when you leave it out. And normally this happens pretty slowly, but when you add yeast, it speeds up the reaction. So it's happening all at once, and we get to see this nice foaming effect. And the dish detergent is actually what makes it foam, though, because otherwise it would just bubble and the oxygen would escape. But similar to how you blow bubbles, the oxygen gets trapped in the soap and makes a nice foam. Yeah, so that was our experiment for today. I hope you guys have fun. Oh, one more thing, though. You need to make sure you wear protection gloves and goggles when you do this, because this can irritate you. It can also get on your clothes and stain them. So just be careful. Make sure you have a grown-up to help you. Yeah, so I hope you guys had fun. And see you next week, next Thursday too.